Tell It As It Is, with your hosts Leon George and John Galman.
Real talk, real issues.
Well, hello and welcome again to Tell It Like It Is for September 24th, 2012. Well, I wanted to say a special hello to all of you who are listening on the internet throughout the globe. You are now listening to the number one internet station, CCV Radio. And this is Tell It Like It Is, which was September 24th. With me and my co-host, John Kilman, of Barbados. I'm Leon George in Trinidad and Tobago. And tonight's topic is, we're looking at sex offenders who would have committed these sex acts, proverbial sex act. And we're looking tonight, we want to discuss whether such individuals should be prosecuted or rehabilitated. Whether we should penalize them or rehabilitate them. I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion tonight, and I hope you will join us and have your say. But before I go any further, let me just say hello to John.
Hello, how are you, George?
I'm fine, thank you.
And you just came through a weekend. How were things?
Oh, the weekend wasn't too bad. It was, I might call it a very productive weekend. I was able to get a lot done. Today's a holiday here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, look at that. We
had a 3-day weekend. If you can say that. The first day of the week, we had to stay home and enjoy the day. And then before you know it, the day was over.
Yeah. Well, here at Barbados, we were not that fortunate to have a 3-day weekend. We just had our usual 2. And I'll tell you one thing, we had quite a lot of rain.
Oh.
We had some lightning and some thunderings, which is something I have not seen or heard now for a little while. A little while mean in terms of years. But we did have it this weekend. It lasted all through Sunday. And but then like Monday morning, this morning, things looked a lot brighter. But it was an unusual bit of weather we had. We didn't even see it coming. We did get a notification from our Met Office that something was about there. We were having some moisture we were looking for, but we didn't think it would have been that much. Anyhow, there were no damages as such, like to property or life, but nevertheless, it certainly marred a good lot of the happenings that would have been scheduled for the day. And there were a couple of postponements of certain functions. But like I said, I think out of every ill, there is some good. And I'm sure that the farmers would not be lamenting because of the showers.
I can sure, you can say it again. Well, we had what you might call a mixed weather pattern, you know. Some parts of the country had a lot of rain, some part had little, and some part had none. It's the Republic Day here today in Trinidad and Tobago. That is why we are home to this. It's a public holiday, a national holiday. Trinidad became a republic in 1976. And I think it became a republic sometime in April, and it was only proclaimed in September of 1976. Today is also one of our famous Son of the Soil's birthday today. I think he had a smashing concert yesterday, which is the Black Stallion's birthday. And he had I think he had a smashing concert. I hear it was sold out, and it was good. It was she put on quite a show with one of the most what you might call popular rap soul bands, which is Street Canal. They also had they also appeared with him, and I think it was a smashing concert. But John, you spoke about the weather a while ago. We have seen a change in weather pattern, not just here in the Caribbean, but throughout the world. It's a strange kind of weather pattern, and maybe one of these days we're going to look into a topic like that, because I tell you, when I was a child, and I growing up, you can tell when it's going to have a day of hot sun, the day is going to be hot. And you can tell when it's going to have a rainy day. When you get up in the morning, the colder the day is, that is between January to May. You can tell yourself the day is going to be extremely hot, you're going to have some good hot sun. When it's cold in the day or cold in the night. But now it's hard because you can't tell when you're going to get a lot of rain, when you're going to get a lot of hot sun. Even if it's very cold in the morning, there's no guarantee that the entire day is going to be hot. You're going to get a lot of hot sun. The weather pattern itself is very unpredictable. It sometimes poses a lot of challenge for even people who study the systems and all. And they have to go back in history and look at the kinds of weather pattern that they will have. So to talk about the rain, that sort of crossed my mind. So one of these days, probably we could look into a topic like this, see how the weather patterns has changed over the years and how it affected us, and if it's something that we are doing to the environment, or if it's just a way of nature behavior, or if it's not my own action. But so that's it. I didn't get the score between West Indies and I think they play Ireland today. So let's get into the topic on tonight. I know the loss yesterday by Australia would have beaten them by a faster runway to the, what they call the Duckworth system. And I know there was in a must-win situation today, so I didn't have a chance to catch up on the cricket. So enough about that. So as you said, let's look into this topic that we're going to discuss tonight. And we are looking at sex offenders. Some people might say sex predators. Some people might say pedophiles, or, people with proverbial minds, and all sorts of names people may come up for people who commit these heinous sex acts. And tonight we really want to zero in on that. We want to look at whether such individuals could be rehabilitated, or they should be penalized and be condemned for the rest of their life from society. Should be taken away from society and condemned. I know, because when somebody commits a sex act, when you force, it's a forced will against another human. You force another person to engage in an act that they does not want to engage in terms of whether it's rape, if an adult rapes another one, whether it's an adult raping a child, and in many instances it could be a man raping a boy, a man raping a little girl, and in some cases they even murder their victims, So we could be looking zeroing on this tonight and see some of the causes and the kinds of behavior that how these individuals behave, what would cause them to behave this way and such. And it's a good topic really to have a psychiatrist or psychologist on to give an opinion from that perspective, because sometimes it have what you might call family background, the trace with they say most abusers, sex abusers, would themselves, a large percentage would themselves abuse when they were a child. You have situations, all kinds of sexual abuse is taking place. You get the stepfathers, stepmothers, abusing of stepchildren, and even. And this is unbelievable. Even husbands abuse their wives sexually, or their wives abuse their husbands sexually. We don't hear about these things because they are normally swept under the carpet. In the case of a woman, a wife who is abusing her husband sexually, someone will want to know how that could take place. Is that really possible? And such a situation wouldn't come up because you can't. It's not normal for a man to go and report that his wife is sexually abusing him. One will want to know why and how come, and then they'll say he's no man. So there are all kinds of different sexual abuse. So sexual abuse and these sex crimes don't get, a lot of sex crimes don't get reported. And many times, people don't want to report those sex crimes. A lot of times the perpetrators get away with these sex crimes. The victims suffer for life, and they suffer internally. In many cases, they don't speak out because there is no one to trust, or they feel that they can't tell anyone or trust anyone. In some instances, they will be threatened in terms of adult, a case of a stepfather raping a stepdaughter or sexually abusing a stepdaughter. Most of the time, you find he will threaten the child, and the child become afraid, and then you will find that the parents, even the mother, is what you call accomplishing the crime because. And this is some personal experience. This is not that I read in a book or hear about. This is what I know. The mother will say, well, if I report him, go and report this, how will I pay my rent? You want me to end up on the street? The man minding the whole family, he paying the rent. You understand? And people take this because of the economic situation. And sometimes, in some instances, the perpetrator will know that because they have this psychological hold on the person. Economically, the person can't stand on their own, and they will even threaten with that. So the person will pretend they will take it. The daughter will complain, and the mother will call she a liar and tell her things like, you want to mash up my marriage, you want to mash up my living, and all these other things that we have to deal with. So this is really a wide topic for discussion. It's something I don't think we can really do justice to a topic like this in one program, really. But we will see how it goes tonight. And if you want to add anything to what I say, so.
Yes, I would. And then, having been a social worker, it sort of up my street because I would have dealt with people who were victims of this sort of behavior. I would have dealt with the people who themselves were the perpetrators and have now reached a point where perhaps they want to change. And for some reason.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got Henry with us?
Yeah.
Yes, we've got Henry. So welcome, Henry.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Go ahead, John.
Yes, okay, so I'm saying, George, you've got, so I would have had an opportunity to have dealt with both the victim and the oppressor. So I can lend that bit to the program tonight. Before we run on, George, you were just looking at the situation, but would you care to state your feelings about it? How would you treat such a situation? You want to do that, or you want to leave that for later?
Well, I will do that later on, because I know, Henry being a former reverend, he would have counseled many of people.
Yeah.
Or he would have had the experience of people coming to him because, men of the cloth always have a certain level of trust.
Yeah.
Because people, so I think he might have had, or may not had that situation to deal with it. But you said my feelings on it. But my feelings on it, I will tell you this. While situation, so many situations might be similar, no situation is exactly the same. And then if someone comes to me with a situation or I hear about a situation, I will want to deal with it according to the evidence presented to me. You know, because while situations are similar, no situation is exactly the same. Circumstances may be different. So while I may sympathize or empathize or even try to understand one individual situation, and even though I should try to understand all, but my feelings and reaction to another situation might not be the same because the circumstances involved may not be the same as the one I dealt with last week, you know?
Well, from my perspective as a social worker, I would be looking at a social history on the person brought to me. Now, if we are dealing with the victim, that's a totally different matter. But I am looking tonight, according to the question we've got to address, should those who commit predatory sex crimes be punished or treated? Now, I would want to take an in-depth look at the person presented to me. They have committed an offense against society. And for some reason now they are before me. Now I would want to look into their past life. I mean, from childhood onward, what were the circumstances which I could possibly use for diagnostic purposes, and that I can look and see who is before me. I would want to find out why would this person want to do something like this. And then I would want to look at the whatever it is, whatever form of abuse this person would have adopted. And one can diagnose certain disorders, and the patterns would fall in place. Now, if you look at what is medically referred to as sexual sadism, that is sadistic tendencies in sexual activity, where you set about to get your sexual excitement by hurting someone else sexually. It isn't that you have just raped, but you have done it in a manner that the more humiliated, the more hurt that person is, the more traumatized that person is, the more it excites you. Now, a chap like that, you could never think of punishment. That chap needs to be treated.
Right, before you go further, remember I talk about spouse abusing one another, and what you talk about there, right, yeah.
Okay.
What you're talking about there, you find that in a lot of cases where husbands will want it to, because you see, I don't want to say, no, I shouldn't say West Indian men. There are a lot of us men believe that our sexual organ is a weapon. And this is why, and we don't feel a sense of manhood until we see our partner who we're having sex with is experiencing a form of discomfort. And that gives us a sort of ego that we are man, we are good, we are lion, strong. And this is why we don't care, because I heard stories of women say how they feel discomforted, how they bruise and battered, and they have to end up by the doctor next day. And when they come home, they may not be in a mood, but the husband will bully them for it, because I am your husband. They don't care how you feel, because that's what makes me feel good. If you're not in any form of discomfort, I don't feel like I am doing anything worthwhile to you. And what you talk about there, about people getting pleasure and seeing people hurt, you could find that in situations that I just described for you there.
Well, yeah, but George, what I am saying is that when that happens, it tells the therapist something is wrong with this individual.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you,
You see what I mean? And we know that this individual needs to be treated. The court does not necessarily see it that way.
Yeah.
But the social worker would. The counselor would. The psychologist would. The church, on the other hand, would see this person as being demon-possessed. So it is a matter of who is seeing whom and what your discipline, what your understanding of the situation, where your skill is, where it lies. So you determine the situation from your expertise. And that is why I'm saying that it needs a number of these people in a team situation to look at the holistic problem instead of one person going there who would put them down, put their hands on their head and pray the demon out. And then the other person who would lock them away in jail and forget that they ever lived because they know nothing of the psychological damage that could possibly be there from childhood that was never attended.
That's a key problem. The problem could be stemmed from the childhood.
Well, of course, because it is in your formative years that you become the child is father of the man. You see what I mean? What I was as a boy, a little child, grew in me, my personality, and I am only an older John, but I am me. You follow? And the things that I would not do because I am moral-minded, but because it was never in me. And if we could use a simple layman term, if you had a can of milk, there is no way you could open the little faucet and get the little faucet and get lemonade. It is not in there.
Yeah.
So it is on that premise that I would go down, and we would add more to it as we go on. In keeping with, I like to deal directly with the question that is posed, so that we don't ramble hither, thither, and yon. And the question is, should those people who commit these predatory sex crimes be punished or treated? And I am saying that at the bottom line, when we get there, these people, it should be a combination of both. Because let me tell you, you don't have to treat a man for a sexual crime by castrating him or taking his penis off.
Of course not.
Because, you see, but he can be, you can punish someone by not allowing them to do things that they would do under the flag of freedom. They're restricted to certain things. And that in itself could be a punishment. You don't have to tie a man down and use a cat nine tail on his back. That is not the only form of punishment. As a matter of fact, I don't regard that as punishment. I regard that as brutality. I believe we could pause at this point and allow...
Yeah, because I want to face a direct question to Reverend Henry.
Yeah.
Reverend Henry, as you were one time on the pulpit, you would have been in charge of a congregation, a church, or whatever. What would be your experience in terms of people coming to you with these sort of problems, or what would be your experience in seeing situations like this? Because of being a man of the cloth, people always put a certain level of amount of trust in a pastor, a priest, and goes to them. So what would be your experience in this situation?
First of all, we have something here. I'm not sure if it's all across the country. I think it is called the HIPAA law, where you do not, under any circumstances, divulge any real secret information that you might have about people. Now, where it is public, you can talk about it. For example, if John came into my office and told me something, I'm bound by the HIPAA law, unless it is of such a criminal nature that I then report it to the police and to the authorities.
Once it's a criminal, let me just clear that. Once it's a criminal nature, you report it.
Me that I reported?
Yeah, you
No,
just
the only criminal nature I reported was a young boy with drugs, and not to the police but to school.
Okay.
We have
remember your last point. I just want to tell you how it is done in one of the states in the United States that I know about, in Seattle. Seattle, to be exact. I have a friend who do counseling there. And the law is there that once somebody comes to you with a situation like that, doesn't matter how confidential it is, you have to report it. However, what you said, the counselor will say to the person, don't tell, if you don't want me to report it, you don't say it. But once a person tell you, once you commit that crime, they have a duty to report it, because they can be charged for withholding information from the authorities. So what they say, if you don't, what you don't tell, yeah.
Yeah, you're right about that. We have two classic cases here in Pennsylvania. I guess you all have heard about Penn State, and where the assistant coach had molested boys all along.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church here they're trying some cases in Philadelphia where several priests had molested boys. They reported it to their superior, and the superior did not follow through on that to the courts, and he is now doing time in jail for not since it was considered criminal. You get into what we call the age of consent, and that varies slightly from about a year or two in different states. But the age of consent is where a child up to, I think, is about 17 years old, can consent to sex unless it is force. I mean, beyond that age, unless it is force. But I heard John a while ago, and treatment, yes, but I am for punishment. Depends on the case how severe it is. Especially with children, there is no mercy from me with adults who molest children. Now, on the other hand, it's extremely complex. There was a guy who had a relationship with a woman, and she set him up, and she wanted money out of him, and she consented. They were both mature people, and then she went and complained to the police that he had raped her. The police investigated, and it was about 2 weeks after, and did not believe her, because were it rape, she would have gone the same day, where they could have taken DNA tests.
The evidence was inconsistent.
Not necessarily, Clyde.
Wait, I'm telling you, because I know this case very well. Okay. And the police did not believe her, and so the case was dropped. Okay. But they all have to be dealt on an individual basis. There's no.
Of course, that's what I said before earlier. Yes.
Yeah, there is no blanket treatment. Now, where people are predators, they need to be put away. Where there is accusation but no proof, then they need to be counseled. And there's no one net by which you can do this.
But can they come in here?
Huh?
Can they come in here?
Sure.
Yeah. We need to clear that statement up, that where there is no proof, they need to be counseled. If there is no proof, why would you want to counsel someone?
Well, if there's no hard proof, if somebody comes into your office and alleges that something happened, then there need to be some investigation. Unless, if it comes to about a week or so after, where there can be no actual hard proof.